Hi, I'm Dave Maxwell. I have the honor of being with Charlie Duke here in Iceland.
Hey, David.
In a nice summer day. You've come very far to get here. How's your experience being here, and give me your impressions you've had?
Well, of course, we flew over, been here 3 or 4 days, and we've started retracing our steps. And 50 years ago today, we were standing in this very spot. And it brings back a lot of memories. I remember the canyon, and it's the tremendous geology of the volcanics around here, so it's fantastic.
How many days do you recall?
I think we were in this spot for about 2 days. We had flown into the interior on a light aircraft, got on a bus, and came into this area. We camped out for 2 nights, and then we went on to some other spots across the interior of Iceland.
How many astronauts were with you on this
I
group?
think 18 or 19, plus some geologists from the States. This was before the first landing on the moon, and the thought was the moon is going to be volcanic, and we should learn about volcanic rock. So the reason we came to Iceland is because it's just a big volcano. And this is one of the unique spots. You can see a lot of evidence of the volcanic flows and stuff here. When we actually got to the moon, it really didn't look like this. All the mountains are more rounded off, and you don't see very many big angular rock you see in the background here.
You had done geological testing in many locations. What were the other locations?
We did several trips to Arizona, both around into Mexico. We did northern Arizona and the San Francisco peaks. We did northern California, Minnesota, up into Canada, the Sudbury area. We did Texas, New Mexico, around Los Alamos, the big caldera there. We did 5 trips to Hawaii. So every month for 6 years, we went on some trip somewhere.
When you were here, did they do any rover testing as well with you?
No, not here, but we did. It's too rough in canyons like this, but out on the flat behind us, if we'd have had a rover, we would have used it. But back then, there was no rover even planned for Apollo. It was only the last 3 missions that they developed the rover. It just helped us cover more ground, really. That's the reason the rover was so useful up on the moon, was because we could cover more territory.
You were one of the few astronauts on the moon that actually drove the rover, correct?
I didn't drive it, I was the navigator. John Young, the commander, was the driver. He sat in the left seat, which was the driver's seat. I sat in the passenger seat on the right side, and I had a set of maps. And so we'd start off, and I'd tell him which way to steer and how far we had to go. And while he's driving, I'm taking pictures and commenting on the scenery that we're seeing to mission control. So I'm sort of the mission control travel guide, if you will. Unless we stopped, we had TV, but when we drove, we didn't have any TV.
Was it a lot of fun, or were you just
it was a lot of fun. I mean, rover was squirrely. We drive around craters of various sizes, and so it was an exciting ride. We drove a total of like 17 miles while we were up up on the moon.
And you actually got paid for doing all this?
Paid, yeah, they actually paid me.
My final question is, how did the experience in the training here help apply to when you went to the moon?
The field geology was really what we had to recognize, various rock types and various formations. The training was all for that, so that when we got to the moon, we would be able to identify different rocks, and we would be able to identify different formations that would help develop knowledge of the moon. And Apollo was all the way across the front face of the moon. We were the farthest south. Apollo 15 was the farthest north. Farthest west was Apollo 12, and I think the farthest east was Neil Armstrong. It was like landing in the top of a big valley, a big mountain valley. We were actually maybe 8,000 feet above where Neil Armstrong had landed, and so we were in the it's called the Highlands of the Moon, and it was the only mission that went to that.
You were there a total of 71 hours or 72 hours?
72 hours on the moon, outside exploring, a total of about 21 hours.
Charlie, thank you so much.
Sure.
You've been great. Fantastic.
Great. Thank you very much.